The fourth finding is in regards to wealth redistribution. According to Lafayette, in his 2017 work on page 783, remember he is a moderate, he believes that even dissenters of taxation believe in wealth redistribution. He believes that the dissenters believe that the free market or the economy redistributes wealth evenly and fairly, well, not evenly, but fairly redistributes wealth, whereas those that are proponents of taxation believe that the government artificially redistributing wealth is a good thing. He argues that people are, regardless of what people claim, they are both for the wealth redistribution. However, not everyone agrees with that. Bloom explains in his 2016 work on page 955. He explains that historically taxation has occurred to exclusively maintain law and order, which goes back to the argument of Lafayette earlier, where he said that taxes. Most people agree that law and order should be in emergency services, national security, things like that. Taxes are a good thing if they're used exclusively for those areas. Is when taxes expand to cover other stuff that people disagree with. Anyway, so Bloom says that historically taxation was exclusively used to maintain law and order, and that taxes do not redistribute wealth as many have claimed. Again, we're referring to modern taxes, but instead are a tool and have been historically used as such for class warfare to oppress the poor and to keep the position of the rich from being threatened within society by the up-and-coming middle class. Bloom quotes Tony Honoro, honor spelled an E, who states that apart from law, no one has a moral obligation to pay any particular amount of tax. As Bloom, page 967 to 968. Honor explains that fairness in the tax system does not truly exist, nor would the government be able to function under the idea that people should decide for themselves how much to pay. Again, 967 to page 968. Thus, Bloom's conclusion is that taxation represses rather than aids the poor and hampers people from climbing the economic ranks. Page 955. The main, I think, point that we need to take away from here, Tony Honoro, by the way, he was a high up in one of the government agencies regarding taxation. I forget which one. And he then went into private practice. I believe he worked for the IMF or the IRS. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, the whole point of Bloom is that taxation does not, according to Bloom and Tony Honor, taxation does not redistribute wealth. All it does is oppress people. And again, Lafayette disagrees with that, and so do multiple other people that claim that taxation does indeed. And those were, the works like Van Cattison, who believe that taxes are fair and that they redistribute wealth. I think the main argument for redistributing wealth is that those that are for the wealth redistribution through taxation, based on my studies, they believe that the government takes the money and uses it for public services, and that's how the wealth is redistributed through services like education, like public school, like free education, and in the governments where healthcare is free, through free healthcare. All right, moving on to the fifth area, which is closing the tax gap. Tax gap, remember from our keywords, refers to the amount of money that the government failed to collect compared to what it had calculated that it should collect if every citizen pays what it's supposed to. The tax gap can be created through legal means such as tax loopholes and illegal means such as tax evasion. The question is, do people have a moral duty to voluntarily close the tax gap through paying higher taxes? If the answer is no, then it's questionable if the taxation is truly moral in the first place. However, if closing the tax gap is indeed a moral obligation, then so is obviously paying taxes. Common sense goes a long way there. Okay, so according to Redistribution, 2020, page 54, he believes that, according to Hobbes' social contract theory, individuals give up their rights to the government to gain safety and protection. And Breda Rhodes' work, 2020 work on page 5, he quotes Jean-Jacques Rousseau's social contract theory, and it coincides with Hobbes. And both theories would insist that people living within a state or country should close the tax gap out of moral obligation by not avoiding taxes and by paying what they are deemed to owe. These